water is life. We know that. But let me explain to you how I learned my water story. So it was sometime in the 80s that my colleague Anil Agarwal and I went to Cherrapunji. Now, just for us to remember, Cherrapunji is known to be one of the wettest places on earth. Cherrapunji gets 12,000 millimeters of rain. Keep that number in mind. When we went to Cherrapunji, there was a big sign on the guest house that said, "Water is scarce, please use it carefully." 12,000 milliliters of rain every year, one of the wettest places on earth, and yet a water shortage. It was just by matter of chance that right after that, we went to this desert city of Jaisalmer. Jaisalmer, as you know, is at the edge of the Thar Desert. It has been the city which has had caravan routes and essentially a bustling city. And if you look at the rainfall of Jaisalmer, it is 50 millimeters. So, how did Jaisalmer survive? How did it build its water, its caravan routes, its trading routes? By being water wise, by managing every drop of the rain that fell through its tanks, through its rooftop harvesting systems. It built a society which was a water wise society. It built an economy on it. And this taught me my first very important lesson, that water is about society. Water is about the relationship that we build with it. Our ability to be able to respect it, to be able to hold it, and then to be able to use it as carefully as possible. It was just about that same time that India was faced with one of the worst droughts. It was the first time that the word El Nino came into our vocabulary, because we saw how drought was really bad and that people had no water to drink and that you had trains carrying water all over. It was a really severe drought here. I'm talking about 1987, 88. We were in Chabua in Madhya Pradesh. And I can tell you of the moonscape I saw. These dry mountains. It looked like if we were on the moon. These hills without any vegetation. And what you could see was desperate people breaking stones, doing what would be the employment guarantee program of that time as labor, which would be paid. But that was the drought. It was crippling. It was really, it was backbreaking. And that also told me how water scarcity take away livelihoods, destroy people's assets. The one thing I saw when I was traveling during that drought was how livestock was destroyed. And what I understood was how this drought would become chronic because you lost the livestock because they did not have fodder, they did not have water, which meant that poverty would increase. I'm Sunita Narain, as you know. You have been watching me. And I'm talking about all this today because we need to bring back these. This is a particularly tough year as we move on. We know that we have the El Nino, the super cycle of these Pacific currents, which will bring more heat and less rain to our part of the world. We also know that we're at the time of climate change, which is already bringing more heat as well as changes in our weather pattern. And what I want to discuss with you today is not just the crisis, but also how we have learned to cope with this. We know as Indians that we have built an extraordinary practice of changing our water paradigm. And now we need to make sure that that learning we can take forward. So let's be clear, climate change will bring more impact on our water system. It will add to water stress. We will get more rain in fewer number of rainy days, which will lead to more floods, more droughts. It is also adding to heat stress, which in turn will add to the demand for water. But what we also know is that climate change is an exacerbating factor. So the issue is not about water wars and water shortage. The issue is changing the paradigm of water management so that we can cope with even greater stress, as we will see with climate change. We know that India has seen one extreme weather event a day in 2025. What does this mean? Put a human face to it. It means that some region of India or the other every day saw more rain, saw more lightning and storm, too much heat, too much cold, cloudburst, cyclone. Now, when I say extreme weather event, this is the definition of the Indian Meteorological Department. We have only aggregated their numbers to present to you the scale of the change that we are seeing. And what is particularly important is to understand the impact on water. We will see more rain in fewer number of rainy days. We can see that already. Every city goes down when it rains. A cloudburst brings down the mighty Himalayas because we are seeing an entire year's rain in a matter of hours or a day. And this only means that our ability to hold the water, to recharge it, to minimize its use, to recycle and reuse every drop of water will become even more critical in this age. We are already touching 42 degrees centigrade in Delhi. We know that North India is sizzling. It's an inferno like heat. We need to understand the impact of that on water. It will lead to drier soils, which will increase the need for irrigation for crops. It will add to land degradation and dust formation. More than that, it will add to evaporation rates. So even when water is stored in surface structures, we will see more water losses. It will also drive up the use of water from drinking to irrigation to fighting fires. We are beginning to see how we are seeing more fires in the forests of India. We need more water for even firefighting. In this age of climate change, in the super cycle of El Nino, we know that we are discussing what is the old agenda has to become the new agenda for water security. It is about clean water for all. It is about water for livelihood, for economy, and most importantly, for health. And the fact is, and I think this is what we have to take a moment to understand, we in India have actually evolved policy enormously over the last 3 to 4 decades. We have learned how we must use every drop of water, what it takes to build a water resilient society. And what we need to do now is to make sure that we can scale this up. But let me first take you to what have we learned. So if you recap the history of water practice in India, and I think this would be very true for other regions, similar regions of the world. In the 90s, there was a complete change of thinking on how we needed to use and manage our water. Till then, the predominant water management was centralized systems, canals that brought water from large reservoirs. So you built dams, nothing wrong with building dams, but that was the only system for water management. The Bhakra Nangal, the many other dams that we built in India, and the idea was canals that would bring water long distance, transport that water for irrigation. Now, because of the scale of these projects, they were managed by water bureaucracies. the PWD, the irrigation department, they supplied water to farms, to cities. Groundwater, the water that is under the ground, was only seen to be what is known conjunctive use, which is that there is a surface water canal system and that would recharge the groundwater. It was known to be a minor water source, never accepted as the real source for water that is needed in the country. And drinking water was supplied, but as the villages were reached with drinking water, they also became unreached. So the number of villages that got water would get negated by the number of villages which found that their taps went dry, or the system broke down, or that the water became polluted. So drinking water crisis was absolutely huge in the country. And that also led to the sanitation challenge, because you built toilets, but the toilets did not have use, or that did not have water. And as a result, we were caught in this cycle of water poverty at one level, lack of drinking water, but also a never ending cycle of floods and then drought. That was India's water challenge. And then new ideas took shape. And let's all take a moment to understand how India actually learnt from the traditions of the past. CSE, the Center for Science and Environment, at that time brought out a book which we called Dying Wisdom. We documented how ancient India, traditional India, the pre-British India had an extraordinary system of water management. How every region of India had its own diverse, engineering, sophisticated system to bring water to fields and to homes. It was the tank system, rooftop harvesting system, it was the zings of Ladakh, it was the bamboo irrigation systems of the Northeast. Extraordinary science, technology, sophistication to build a society which was connected to its water. And that learning became part of policy, because we learned that if you built a water culture in which you could capture every drop of rain in millions of water bodies, you could recharge groundwater. The slogan is, rain is decentralized, so must be the supply for water. Catch water where it falls. This built water security that would provide livelihood security. In some senses, we took what was the past and made it part of our present policy, and then, of course, changed the future. And as a result of it, scale has been just incredible. So just let me give you some numbers. In the early part of 2000, as you know, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act came in, Manrega. It basically said that 60 to 70% of the total investment that would be made in creating employment would go into building water harvesting structures. So just let's understand the scaling of this. Manrega, since its inception, has built 100 million assets across rural India. And if we assume that 60 to 70% of these are water assets, you are talking about roughly 100 water structures per village. Now, I know that every tank is not capturing the rain that it must, but just think of the potential. We have used the labor of people to build ecological assets, and the scale of these assets is 100 water structures on average in every Indian village. In addition, the government of India has an incredible program to rejuvenate lakes across India. It's called the Amrit Sarovar program. 70,000 water structures have been rejuvenated, replenished, restored under this scheme. Then we have the Jal Jeevan Mission, the government of India's drinking water program, very ambitious program. And since its inception, it has reached 158 million households with tap connections. I want to repeat this number: 158 million household tap connections. In addition, the government has had a very important program to move India into ODF free, open defecation free. And this time, the government of India understood that the weakness was that toilets were built but never used. So there was a very careful program to build a nudge theory to persuade people that if toilets were not used, it would impact health. And so people behavior change happened. And within that program, 120 million rural toilets have been built. This scale is important. And it's also important for us to acknowledge that the policy lab, I call this a dynamic open policy lab because we are all part of this development laboratory, the development that is happening across the country, across many countries of the world. So many of us pointed out to government saying, Manrega, which is the rural employment program, was focusing too much on the employment, not on the quality of the asset. So the government of India today has a deliberate effort to focus on quality, to measure the sustainability of that asset, that water asset, by measuring its water source. It is using convergence so that different programs of government are coming together. And it is even using satellite data to understand how these water structures are impacting the groundwater levels and the productivity in villages. Many of us have always pointed out that you can reach a village with water, but if that water source is not sustainable, you will unreach the village. So the JJM, the Jal Jeevan Mission, very careful definition is functional tap, which means that government is today driven to make sure that there is a quality, that the operation and maintenance of that water system is paid for, and that the sources for that water do not go dry. It's also happened in the urban water. Many of you who see my show will remember I spoke about the Indore water challenge. I've spoken about Delhi's water crisis. And at all times, I have mentioned how urban India, how cities do not consume water. They use it and discharge it. The problem today is that cities and industries take water and they discharge dirty water. And as a result of it, our groundwater gets polluted, it gets degraded, and this adds to the health costs. But government policy has learned that we cannot clean rivers with conventional hardware. We cannot build sewage treatment plants and then hope to connect it to underground sewage and then clean our rivers. Because our reality is different. Our reality is millions remain unconnected to sewage networks. Our reality is millions of tons of sewage is untreated in spite of the amount that we have invested in building the infrastructure of sewage treatment. And this learning has really helped us to change the future. So, for instance, the Center for Science and Environment, CSE, my colleagues, we did these what we call shit flow diagrams for many cities of India. We tried to understand how much of the excreta that gets generated in the city, how is it conveyed, how much of it is treated, and how much of it is safely disposed of. And what we learned from it is that the majority use what we call on-site systems. They're connected to septic tanks, drains, or informal collection systems. Now, this made policy innovate because policy understood, instead of building underground storage and connecting everyone, can we take the fecal sludge which comes out of homes, which is collected in tankers? Can we make sure those tankers overground, not underground, take that sewage to a treatment facility where it is designed to be reused, both in terms of water and in terms of the excreta? The opportunity is to that this system would be cheaper, it would be faster, and it would be able to be scaled up. And this is what the government did. They evolved policy. They said that the SPM 2.0 guidelines will focus on sewage interception and the reuse of treated water, and not on building the hardware of the sewage treatment plant. And as a result of it, many states in India are today moving to what you can call non-sewage sanitation. It is scalable, it is affordable. When it comes to rainwater harvesting, what I'm talking about is, instead of the long canals bringing water and us losing water all on the way, can you make sure that you harvest rain when and where it falls, catch water where it falls, recharge groundwater? Same with sanitation. Instead of building underground sewage lines, which never get built, never get completed, can you think about connecting households which use toilets? The excreta is then collected in tankers, carried over land, and taken for treatment. The aim is to make sure that that water is reused and recycled. That has to be the objective. So it's a rethinking, it's a re-engineering of the water future. And in many ways, India has had the courage and the imagination to work outside the box. I have taken you through a period when there was a different water paradigm, a new learning, a lot of new policies, scaling up that has happened, new understanding on how the policy must be reworked. And yet, when I talk to you today, I know that we are at a time when we must not lose the gains. We are in the age of climate change. We know that water will become more scarce, heat will rise, and we have to make sure that we do not slip back. We know today that water supply in villages has reached, but there is a growing problem of non-functional taps. Water pollution is increasing, so the quality of water is a problem. There is also the problem that the sources of water are drying up. The cost of supplying clean water is increasing, and all this has an impact on health. And this as a time when we will get more rain in fewer number of rainy days, we will get more heat. It is very clear that we need to do something to scale up not just the policy, but also the practice. So where are some of the big unfinished agenda that we need to take forward? And what needs to be done now in the coming decade to make India even more water secure? Number one, we need to focus on institutions. When I talk about decentralized water management, when I talk about community ponds and tanks that need to be recharged, what we have to understand is we have an unfinished agenda of making sure that you can strengthen this first tier of governance, that we can invest in the technical and management capabilities of the panchayats, of the gram sabhas, of all the village communities, so that they can take decisions in their interests as they move forward. Water needs local decision makers. It needs accountable institutions. Water ultimately is about participatory democracy. This work is unfinished. We talk about the need for community led water management systems. Now we really need to make this a reality. The second big agenda is my top agenda is groundwater. The water which flows below the surface that we know so little about. The aquifers of water which we cannot see. And as a result of it, we still treat groundwater as a stepchild of water management. We still call it a minor resource. We don't know how to measure it. If every village had a groundwater measuring system in which they knew what was the state of their groundwater, how recharged was it, you will see water management will improve, water respect will grow. Villagers will not use water guzzling crops if they know it is literally cutting the branch on which they are sitting, destroying their underground water management system. They will take only as much as they can recharge back with every rain. So we need to make sure that we can do these underground connections of water much better. Groundwater is not about individuals, it is about communities. So it is really about building that trust, building the information, and making sure there is cooperation above land so that the groundwater below land can be managed. The third part of the agenda is really not about water, it is about land, it is about convergence. So when we think about water, we think about a pond or a tank. But what we don't think about is the catchment which harvests the water, or the drains, the nalas as they're known in Hindi, that bring the water to this water body. The trouble is that most of these land systems are held by different government departments. And as a result of it, this fracturing of governance fractures our ability to be able to manage the water system. So we need to make sure that we do convergence of land and water. And this means putting more trust in the hands of communities so that they manage their watershed, their catchment, so that water security becomes a reality. The fourth agenda, which is becoming critical now, is the issue of water pollution. We have to join these dots because the more water we harvest, if we destroy, degrade that water because of pollution, we end up with losing all the effort we make in augmenting it, in harvesting it, in trying to supply it. We need to make sure that whether it is arsenic, fluoride, or bacteria contamination, that we can monitor this, not just at literally every village level. The government of India has a plan. It has built labs. It has even given kits to communities, to villagers, to be able to test their water system, but it's not adding up. That data needs to be in the public domain. People need to know what is the source of contamination so that we can fix it, because the solutions exist. If it's arsenic, if it's fluoride, then there are technologies available either to remove it or to dilute it with more surface water. So solutions exist, but we need focus on this, we need monitoring to be done, and we need information in the public domain. The urban agenda is equally critical. You have cities today that literally go under in floods, whether it is Bengaluru or it is Delhi, every time it rains. And you have the city of Indore, the cleanest city of India, which had a water contamination problem. If we join all the dots, we understand that it is about the system of water supply and a lack of focus on sewage. So as I keep saying, sewage first approach for city water management. Every lake, every pond in a city is the sponge to hold that excess rain which we will get because of climate change and recharge our groundwater. So the water wisdom of a city is its ability to be able to manage its local water system, to be able to reuse and recycle every drop of its sewage. That is the water-wise future of Indian cities that we need to practice. So, if you think about what I have spoken about in this show, the enormous policy innovation that we have seen in India in changing the practice of water and wastewater management, the scaling up that we have seen because of government programs, but that today we are still at a time when there is an unfinished agenda, that we are at a time when, in spite of that scale, we are not seeing programs to be as effective as it must. And this is really where the future agenda is about. Because we know that change needs scale, and scale needs state intervention. But effectiveness of those programs needs all our attention, because we are in this laboratory of development. And in my view, two things need to be done. One, we need to build confidence and capacity, because so much good work is happening, but it goes unnoticed. If we can document this, if we can explain the inspiration of that work, we can amplify it, we can make many more such practices happen. We need to stand behind the good work, stand behind the change that is happening in our world. Second, we need to improve the narrative on outcomes. We talk about Manrega, the millions of water structures, but we don't have enough data to show us how those water structures have changed the livelihood in villages, changed the economic story, how they have improved the health outcomes in villages because water delivery has happened. So we need more research. We need to make sure that we understand how these incredible scaling up that has happened in our world is actually making a difference in people's lives. Because at the end of the day, good work leads to more good work. Inspiration means more people will do the same thing, and that's how change happens. So the theory really, as I keep calling it, that theory of change is to stand behind this incredible practice that we are seeing and that we must see more of. In this laboratory of development, change will only come when we can make sure we stand behind it, we guide it, we take it ahead. Because at the end, and I think that's what I really believe in strongly, and I hope you will agree, we all have a duty to hope. And finally, in this water story, please always remember that we all live downstream. In this map behind me, you will see a small red dot. That is the city of Delhi. It's 22 kilometers of the entire life of the Yamuna River, 22 kilometers. It's 90% of Yamuna's pollution. But that is not the story. The story is Delhi needs clean water from Haryana, which is upstream of it. But if Delhi gives sewage to its downstream, it will also tomorrow get sewage in its upstream. So just remember, we all live downstream. Thank you very much.